Caelum had always believed that life ran on predictable patterns. The sun rose. People lied politely. Confessions were followed by flustered yes or dramatic no's, depending on how attractive the confessor was. Simple. Logical. Which was exactly why Iriax standing in front of him, with his stupidly perfect smile and that careless confidence that made people forgive him for breathing too loudly, felt like a glitch in the system. "You like me?" Iriax said, not asking. They were in the courtyard, where the afternoon light turned everything warm and cinematic. Of course it did. Iriax had timing like that. His black coat hung open, hands tucked into his pockets, posture relaxed like he wasn't currently dismantling Caelum's piece. Caelum blinked once, then twice. "I don't," he said. The smile on Iriax's face froze. Just slightly. Like a buffering screen. "I'm sorry?" Iriax laughed because surely that was the correct response to hearing something impossible. "I don't like you," Caelum repeated, calm as ever. "Romantically. Platonically you're fine." Fine. That word hit harder than an insult. A few people nearby slowed their steps. Someone actually stopped walking. Caelum could practically hear the invisible audience leaning in. Iriax tilted his head, studying him like Caelum had suddenly begun speaking an extinct language. "You're joking." "I don't joke," Caelum said. "It's inefficient." That earned him a few quiet gasps. Iriax had been confessed to more times than anyone could count. He was charming without trying, rich without effort, attractive in a way that made mirrors work overtime. He didn't chase. People came to him. Which was why he had approached Caelum with the casual confidence of someone ordering a coffee. "I like you," he had said. No big show. No kneeling. Just certainty. And certainty apparently had met its match. "You're rejecting me," Iriax said slowly, as if testing the words for poison. "Yes." "Publicly." "Yes." Without trembling. Caelum considered that. "Should I be trembling?" "No," Iriax said automatically. Then paused. "I mean, yes. Normally. A little." Caelum shrugged. "I'm not normal." That was possibly the rudest thing he could have said. Iriax laughed again, louder this time, trying to turn it into a joke. "Okay, cute. You're playing hard to get." "I'm playing nothing," Caelum said. "I don't get." The silence stretched. Somewhere, a bird chirped, unaware it was witnessing history. Iriax straightened, confidence reassembling itself like armor. "Caelum, be serious." "I am." "You don't even know me." "I know enough." "Oh." Iriax leaned in, voice dropping teasingly. "Tell me." "You're used to being wanted," Caelum said, meeting his gaze evenly. "You mistake interest for inevitability. And you smile when you don't know what else to do." The courtyard went very quiet. For the first time, Iriax didn't smile. Then, slowly, he did again. Wider. Sharper. Fascinated. "Wow," he said. "You really thought about me." Caelum sighed. "You're exhausting." "That's not a no." "That was absolutely a no." Iriax tapped his chin. "I don't think it was." Around them, whispers bloomed like wildfire. Did he just reject Iriax? Is this a joke? Who does that? Caelum ignored them all. "I'm not interested. Please don't make this awkward." "Too late," Iriax said cheerfully. "We're way past awkward." Caelum turned to leave. That's when Iriax felt it. Not anger. Not humiliation. Interest. A sharp, electric spark that raced through him and settled somewhere dangerous. He watched Caelum walk away, unhurried, unbothered, like he hadn't just cracked reality in half. No one walked away from him like that. Someone bumped into Iriax. "Man, are you okay?" Iriax blinked. "Yeah. You just got rejected." "Did I?" The person stared. "Yes. Very clearly." Iriax looked back at Caelum's retreating figure, lips curling. "No," he said. "I got challenged." By evening, the story had mutated. Some said Caelum laughed in Iriax's face. Others swore Iriax had begged. One dramatic retelling involved rain, tears, and a dramatic coat throw that definitely hadn't happened. Caelum heard none of it. He was too busy trying to understand why his chest felt light. He sat at his desk later that night, rereading notes he wasn't absorbing. Every time he closed his eyes, Iriax's frozen expression replayed in perfect clarity. Good, Caelum thought. That's what happens when people assume. A knock sounded at his door. He frowned. No one ever knocked. Opening it, he found, of course, Iriax, leaning casually against the doorframe, holding a small paper bag. "I brought you dinner," Iriax said. "I heard you forget to eat when you're focused." Caelum stared. How do you know where I live? Iriax smiled. Bright. Unapologetic. Dangerous. I pay attention. That's concerning. I prefer dedicated. Caelum crossed his arms. I rejected you. I remember, Iriax said. It was very memorable. So why are you here? Iriax lifted the bag. Because rejection doesn't mean I stop being interested. It just means I don't get to be lazy about it. Caelum opened his mouth, closed it, then sighed deeply. You're not supposed to do this. Do what? Be unfazed. Iriax's gaze softened just a fraction. I'm not unfazed. I'm intrigued. That word. Caelum stepped aside. 5 minutes. Iriax grinned like he'd won a war. As he stepped inside, Caelum had a sudden, unsettling thought. This wasn't over. Not even close. By the third day after rejecting Iriax, Caelum learned something important about the universe. It had a sense of humor. Also, it hated him. Because Iriax was everywhere. Not in the dramatic, hiding behind trees way. No. That would have been easier to report to someone. This was worse. This was plausible presence. Caelum stepped into the campus cafe at 8:07 a.m., still half asleep, fully craving caffeine, and there was Iriax, already seated at the corner table like a decorative plant that had learned how to flirt. Morning, Iriax said, waving. You're late. I don't have a schedule with you, Caelum replied. Yet. Caelum ordered his coffee without looking at him. When he turned back, Iriax had already ordered the same thing. You copied me. I anticipated you. That's worse. Iriax only smiled, resting his chin in his hand. You sleep okay? That's none of your business. So, not great. Caelum took his cup and left. He did not trip. He deserved credit for that. By noon, Iriax appeared again, this time in the library, seated directly across from Caelum, pretending very badly to read a book upside down. You're holding it wrong, Caelum said without looking up. I'm absorbing the vibe. That's not how reading works. You'd be surprised. Caelum packed his bag and moved tables. 5 minutes later, Iriax sat down again. You followed me. I also needed this table. You followed me. Yes, Iriax admitted easily. But respectfully. Caelum stared at him. Define respectfully. I didn't touch your stuff. That's the bare minimum. Then I'm doing great. By the end of the day, Caelum had catalogued Iriax sightings like a wildlife researcher. Cafe Iriax. Library Iriax. Hallway Iriax. Vending machine Iriax, who had insisted on buying him a snack because thinking burns calories. Caelum's friends noticed. Is he haunting you? One asked, whispering as Iriax leaned against a nearby wall, very visibly pretending not to eavesdrop. I rejected him, Caelum said flatly. And he took that personally. Yes. Hot. Caelum shot them a look. Help me. They shrugged. I kind of want to see how this ends. Traitors. All of them. That evening, Caelum found Iriax waiting outside his building again. This time without food. Progress maybe. You can't keep doing this, Caelum said, arms crossed. I can, Iriax said. I just shouldn't. That's not comforting. I'm learning boundaries. Slowly. Painfully. They stood there, the air oddly charged. Iriax wasn't smirking. He wasn't flirting. He just looked attentive. I don't dislike you, Caelum said, choosing his words carefully. I dislike pressure. Iriax nodded. Then I'll stop pushing. Caelum raised an eyebrow. Really? Yes. He waited. Nothing happened. Iriax didn't move closer. Didn't tease. Didn't reach out. That was somehow worse. Good, Caelum said finally. Then we're clear. They were not clear. The next day, Iriax didn't appear. Not at the cafe. Not in the library. Not in the hallways. Caelum noticed. He hated that he noticed. By afternoon, his concentration was shot. He reread the same sentence 5 times and absorbed none of it. This is ridiculous, he thought. At sunset, he heard someone laugh behind him. Iriax's laugh. He turned too fast and almost collided with him. Oh, Iriax said. Hi. You said you'd stop. I said I'd stop pushing, Iriax corrected. This is standing. That's semantic manipulation. I'm very good at words. Caelum pinched the bridge of his nose. What do you want? Iriax hesitated. Actually hesitated. To know you, he said finally. Without you feeling cornered. That sounds suspiciously healthy. I've had a lot of time to think, Iriax said. Mostly because you weren't around. Something in his tone made Caelum pause. They walked together, accidentally, he told himself. Just the same direction. You don't flirt like normal people, Caelum said. I don't want you like normal people, Iriax replied without missing a beat. That's not romantic. That's alarming. And yet, Iriax said lightly, you didn't walk away. Caelum stopped. Iriax stopped too. I laughed, Caelum said quietly. In the library. Yesterday. I know. That doesn't happen. I know. Stop knowing things about me. Iriax smiled, softer this time. Make me. Silence stretched between them. Not awkward. Something else. Caelum exhaled. You're annoying. Frequently. And persistent. Tragically. And not as unbearable as I expected. Iriax's eyes lit up like he'd been handed a trophy. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. That's depressing. Be nicer to me again. Caelum shook his head, lips twitching despite himself. This isn't you winning. I know, Iriax said. This is me staying. Caelum didn't respond. But he didn't leave either. And somewhere in the space between irritation and curiosity, something dangerous began to take root. Not obsession. Not yet. Interest. Caelum decided, very maturely, that the problem was not Iriax. The problem was that Iriax had learned how to behave. Which was unfair. He no longer appeared everywhere. He appeared sometimes. He no longer flirted loudly. He flirted selectively. He no longer leaned too close. He leaned at a distance that suggested effort and restraint, which was infinitely more distracting. It was frankly rude. Caelum noticed these things against his will. Like now. He sat on the steps outside the Humanities building, notebook open, pen hovering uselessly above the page. Iriax sat 2 steps below him, not touching, not intruding, just there. You're thinking too hard, Iriax said. I always think too hard. That explains a lot. Caelum shot him a look. You're supposed to be respecting my boundaries. I am, Iriax said. I didn't sit next to you. You sat near me. Proximity is not a violation. That sounds like something you rehearsed. I did. Caelum closed his notebook. We need to talk. Iriax straightened immediately. Okay. That quick seriousness unsettled him. This thing, Caelum said. Whatever you think it is, we need to define it. I agree. Good, Caelum said. Because I don't like ambiguity. I know. Stop doing that. Sorry. Caelum took a breath. You can't orbit my life like this. I'm not orbiting, Iriax said. I'm pacing. That's worse. Iriax smiled faintly. Is it? Yes. They stared at each other. A breeze passed. Somewhere someone laughed too loudly. I don't feel trapped, Caelum admitted. Which is the problem? Iriax didn't interrupt. I should, Caelum continued. I should feel annoyed. Or pressured. Or uncomfortable. But I don't. Iriax swallowed. And that scares you. Yes. Okay. That calm response made Caelum frown. You're not going to argue? No, Iriax said. This isn't an argument. What is it? A line, Iriax replied. You're showing me where it is. Caelum blinked. You're taking this well. I'm trying. There it was again. That earnestness that didn't match Iriax's reputation at all. Why? Caelum asked. Why are you doing this? You could have moved on. Iriax laughed quietly. I tried. You did not. I really did, Iriax said. For about 12 hours. That's not trying. I rearranged my schedule. That's terrifying. Iriax's smile faded. I don't like being rejected because I'm not used to it. But I like you because you didn't reject me to hurt me. Caelum's chest tightened. You didn't perform, Iriax continued. You didn't posture. You were just honest. Caelum looked away. Honesty is easier when you expect nothing in return. And yet, Iriax said softly, you're still here. That was unfair. He was being unfair. Caelum stood abruptly. I need air. I'll stay, Iriax said immediately. I won't follow. Caelum paused. That helped. He walked a few steps away, breathing deeply, grounding himself. When he turned back, Iriax hadn't moved. Good. Annoying but good. Caelum returned and sat again, closer this time. Not next to him. But closer. Iriax noticed. He didn't comment. People think you're fearless, Caelum said. They're wrong. They think you enjoy attention. I enjoy control. Caelum looked at him sharply. I don't mean over people, Iriax added quickly. Over myself. Over situations. Rejection takes that away. That's honest, Caelum said. I'm practicing. They sat in silence, the kind that didn't itch. I don't want to be obsessed, Iriax said suddenly. I know how it looks. Caelum huffed. You're failing. I know, Iriax said. But obsession implies ownership. I don't want to own you. Caelum's breath hitched before he could stop it. I want you to choose, Iriax continued. Even if the answer is no. That's dangerous. For me, Iriax agreed. Caelum studied him, really studied him, and for the first time saw not confidence but effort. Not arrogance but restraint wound tight. You're tired, Caelum said. I am. Why keep going? Iriax met his gaze. Because I'd rather be tired than curious. That did it? Caelum laughed. It slipped out, startled and real, and Iriax's head snapped toward him like he'd heard a miracle. That sound? Iriax said reverently. Do it again. No. Please. No. I'll earn it. Caelum shook his head, smiling despite himself. You're impossible. You're smiling. That's incidental. Can I say something reckless? Iriax asked. Caelum considered. You're going to anyway. I don't want to scare you away, Iriax said. So if I cross a line, tell me. I'll stop. Immediately? Yes. Without sulking? I'll sulk privately. That's acceptable. They both laughed then, the tension cracking just enough to let warmth through. I'm not saying yes, Caelum said quietly. I know. But I'm not saying no anymore. Iriax's breath caught. That moment, fragile, charged, hung between them. Then someone yelled from across the quad, Hey Ir, you coming or what? The spell shattered. Iriax groaned. Reality. Disgusting. Caelum stood. Go. You sure? Yes. Iriax hesitated, then nodded. Tomorrow? Caelum paused. Don't push. I won't. He walked away. Caelum watched him go, heart doing something deeply inconvenient. He had crossed no boundaries. And somehow that was the most dangerous part. The first sign something was wrong was the silence. Caelum noticed it on a Tuesday, which was already suspicious because Tuesdays were aggressively uneventful. He walked into the cafe at 8:07 a.m. out of habit and paused, cup halfway to his mouth. No Iriax. No corner table presence. No anticipatory coffee order. No familiar voice commenting on his sleep deprivation like it was a shared hobby. Caelum told himself, very firmly, that this was good. This was boundaries working. This was peace. It felt like someone had moved the furniture in his brain and not told him where anything went. By noon, the absence had grown louder. The library table across from him stayed empty. The vending machine did not dispense unsolicited snacks. No footsteps matched his pace. No one smiled at him like they were holding back 100 words. Caelum's pen snapped. Great, he muttered. Fantastic. His friends noticed. Did you scare him off? One asked. I didn't scare him, Caelum said. I clarified. Same thing sometimes. That night, Caelum lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation like a trial transcript. Iriax had said he'd stop pushing. He had. Perfectly. Which was somehow worse. By day 3, Caelum was officially annoyed. Not at Iriax. At himself. He missed the quiet attention. The deliberate restraint. The way Iriax listened like every word mattered, even the ones Caelum hadn't said out loud. This was not acceptable. On day 4, Caelum snapped. He found Iriax in the one place he hadn't expected. The rooftop of the science building, leaning against the railing, city lights glittering below like an offering. You're avoiding me, Caelum said, breathless from the stairs and something else. Iriax turned, startled. You are, Caelum continued. Don't deny it. I'm respecting you. Too much. Iriax frowned. Is that a complaint? Yes. They stared at each other, the night buzzing around them. I told you to stop pushing, Caelum said. So I did. I didn't tell you to disappear. Iriax exhaled slowly. You said you weren't saying yes. I wasn't. And you didn't say no, Iriax said. So I stepped back. I didn't want to tip the scale. Caelum's throat tightened. You could have asked. I didn't want to corner you. That word again. Caelum crossed the space between them before he could overthink it. Do you know what it feels like, he said, voice low, to realize the thing you thought was overwhelming was actually grounding? Iriax's eyes softened painfully. Caelum. I don't like losing control, Caelum continued. I don't like wanting things that don't fit neatly into my life. And I don't like that you make me feel seen without trying to fix me. Silence fell. Then Iriax laughed softly, almost broken. You have no idea how hard it's been not to be here. Why? Because I like you, Iriax said simply. Not because you said no. Not because you challenged me. Just because you're you. Caelum's heart stuttered. You're not obsessed, Caelum said slowly. Iriax blinked. I'm not. You were fixated, Caelum corrected. Now you're choosing. Iriax considered that. That sounds healthier. It is, Caelum said. Annoyingly. They stood close, the space between them charged but calm. I'm not promising forever, Caelum said. I'm not asking for it. I might pull away. I'll give you space. I'll overthink. I'll wait. Caelum laughed. You're very confident for someone who just agreed to emotional chaos. I'm good at chaos, Iriax said. I'm bad at pretending not to care. That's new. For you, Iriax said quietly. Yes. Caelum reached out before he could stop himself and caught the sleeve of Iriax's coat. Iriax froze. Don't go, Caelum said. Not like this. Iriax's voice was barely a whisper. Are you asking me to stay? I'm asking you to walk with me, Caelum replied. At my pace. Iriax smiled then, not triumphant, not smug, just warm. I can do that. They walked along the rooftop, shoulder to shoulder, not touching but close enough to feel the heat. So, Iriax said lightly, does this mean I'm allowed to bring you coffee again? Yes. And sit across from you in the library? Yes. And occasionally flirt? Caelum glanced at him. Occasionally. Define occasionally. I'll let you know when you cross the line. Deal. They stopped near the edge, the city stretching endlessly before them. I rejected you, Caelum said. I know. And now you're here. Still here, Iriax corrected. Caelum smiled, slow and certain. Good. Iriax's breath caught. Is this where I kiss you? No, Caelum said. Iriax nodded instantly. Okay. A beat passed. Not yet, Caelum added. Iriax grinned, eyes bright. I can wait. And for the first time, waiting didn't feel like obsession. It felt like choice. Like something real had finally begun.